Stacy McGurran laughed for real at the hotel bar, and that was the first thing that made the night feel dangerous. Not dangerous in the obvious way. Nothing loud happened. Nobody threw a glass or made a speech they would regret. The place was too expensive for that. It was all dark wood, low lamps, quiet music, and people in suits pretending they were relaxed. But Stacy laughing like that? That was not normal. I had worked under her for 14 months at Marlowe and Finch, a small branding firm in downtown Chicago where everyone acted calm until a client changed 3 words in a headline and ruined a whole week. I was a senior copywriter. Stacy was the creative director. She was the kind of boss who could sit through a client's terrible idea, blink once, and somehow make them apologize for having it. She never raised her voice. She did not have to. In meetings, she was elegant, sharp, and exact. She wore clean lines, neutral colors, and that expression that made junior account managers sit up straighter. Clients respected her. The team feared her a little. I respected her too, which was why I had spent over a year keeping my attraction to her locked in a place where it could not damage anything. Because she was my boss, and because I was not stupid. That night, though, we had won the Ravenmere account, a luxury hospitality group with hotels in Chicago, Nashville, and New Orleans. It was the kind of account that changed the mood of a firm our size. The signing dinner had been polished and exhausting. Afterward, half the team drifted into the hotel bar like we had all agreed without saying it. At first, it was harmless. Toasts, small jokes, everyone repeating the same 3 stories from the pitch. Stacy sat at the end of the long table with her jacket folded beside her and one elbow on the arm of her chair. She looked like herself, but slightly loosened. Her hair had slipped from its perfect shape. Her smile lasted a second longer than usual. Then Marcus from Strategy tried to imitate the client's CEO saying, "We don't want a brand, we want a feeling," and Stacy laughed. Not the polite meeting laugh. Not the thin, controlled one. A real laugh. Low, surprised, almost unwilling. I looked down at my glass because staring felt like a bad idea. By 10:30, people started leaving. One designer had an early train. Our account director had a babysitter waiting. Marcus vanished after saying he was just going to check one email, which meant he had gone home without making eye contact. By 11:15, it was just me and Stacy at the bar. She had slipped off one heel under the counter and was rolling her ankle like it had personally offended her. "Public success is exhausting," she said. I smiled. "That sounds like something you'd put on a slide and then reject for being too obvious." "It is obvious." She picked up her water and frowned at it. "That's what makes it true. You seemed pretty calm tonight." I was performing calm. Very different. That caught me off guard because she said it simply, like she was telling me the Wi-Fi password. She looked over at me. "Don't act surprised, Terry. You write for a living. You know most confidence is formatting." "I know some confidence is formatting," I said. "Yours usually has better margins." That got another laugh from her, smaller this time, but still real. She turned her face away like she did not want to reward me too much. I should have left then. That would have been smart. In the night while it was still just a nice, strange memory. Stacy being funny. Stacy being tired. Stacy acting almost human for 20 minutes in a hotel bar. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced down. It was quick. A tiny shift. Her mouth stayed still, but something behind her eyes dropped out of place. She turned the phone over. I waited a second. "Everything okay?" "Fine." That word came out too neat. The bartender passed by, and Stacy lifted 2 fingers. "Could I get another?" "No," I said. Her head turned slowly. I immediately wished I had used a softer start, but I kept my voice even. "Not no like I'm your father. No like tomorrow morning already has enough work in it." Her eyes narrowed, but not fully. "You're managing me now?" "I'm redirecting the project." "That is the worst thing you have ever said to me." "Probably true." I pushed her water a few inches closer. "Still, drink that first." For a second I thought she would cut me down. She was very good at it when she wanted to be. Instead, she looked at the glass, then at me, then gave a tired little sigh. "My ex is engaged," she said. I did not know what to do with my face. She smiled like she hated herself for saying it. "There. Now it's officially pathetic." "No, it isn't." "It is a little. It's human." Stacy stared at the rows of bottles behind the bar. "I dislike when human is inconvenient." "That does sound on brand for you." She huffed, but the sadness stayed. Not dramatic. Not messy. Just there, sitting beside her now. By midnight, the bar was closing. Rain had turned the windows blurry, and ride shares were delayed all over the loop. Stacy stood, then paused with one hand on the back of the stool, just long enough for me to notice. She was not out of control. That was not it. She was still Stacy, still aware, still proud enough to pretend she was steadier than she was. But she was tired, hurt, and too far from home. My apartment is 5 minutes from here, I said carefully. You can take the couch. Water, blanket, closed door, zero weirdness. In the morning, you get coffee and dignity. She looked at me for a long moment. Outside, rain tapped hard against the glass. Then she asked, very quietly, "Are you a safe person to be tired around?" I felt the question land heavier than anything else she had said all night. "Yes," I said. "I am." The ride to my apartment lasted 6 minutes. But it felt longer because Stacy went quiet in that specific way people do when they're trying not to let one bad headline in their life become the whole front page. She sat beside me in the back of the car with her coat folded over her lap, one heel dangling from her fingers, the other still on her foot, like she had simply given up halfway through being polished. Rain dragged silver lines down the window. The driver had sports radio on low. Every normal detail made the situation feel less normal. At the hotel, she had asked if I was safe to be tired around. I had said yes. Now I had to prove it without making a big speech about proving it. When we reached my building, I held the lobby door open and let her walk ahead of me. She moved slowly, but not helplessly. That mattered. Stacy McGurran could be hurt, tired, and a little unsteady, but she was still the kind of woman who made a quiet elevator feel like it had rules. My apartment was on the 4th floor of an old brick building with a radiator that clanked whenever the temperature dropped and hallway lights that flickered just enough to annoy me. I unlocked the door, stepped in first, and turned on the lamp by the couch instead of the overhead light. "Okay," I said, setting my keys in the bowl by the door. "Welcome to the part of Chicago where senior copywriters pretend exposed brick is a personality." Stacy stepped inside and looked around. My place was clean, but not impressive. Books on the low shelves, 2 plants by the window, a couch I had bought after reading too many reviews, a small dining table that was mostly a landing zone for mail, notebooks, and one bowl of clementines I kept forgetting to eat. She pointed at the plants. "You have living things. So far. Interesting. That sounds like a performance review." She walked closer to the window and touched one leaf with the tip of her finger. "This one is thriving. That one is fake." Stacy turned her head and stared at me. Then she laughed, soft and tired. "Of course it is. The other one is real. I think." "You think?" "It changes color. I assume that means it has a journey." She shook her head and lowered herself carefully onto the couch. "Your furniture says you are responsible, but not yet emotionally committed to a rug." I didn't know the rug was the line. The rug is always the line. I went to the kitchen and filled a glass with water. Then another. I set one on the coffee table in front of her and kept one for myself, mostly so it would not feel like I was supervising. She picked it up, took a small drink, and made a face. "You're being very calm." "I'm trying to be useful." "That's not always the same thing." "No," I said, "but tonight I think it overlaps." She looked at me for a second, then nodded like she was accepting the answer. I pulled a folded blanket from the basket beside the couch and put it over the armrest. Then I grabbed a spare pillow from the linen closet. I kept moving slowly, deliberately, making sure every action looked like exactly what it was. "Couch, water, blanket, space. I have a shirt you can sleep in," I said. "Old one. Clean. Too big for me now because I bought it during a brief and embarrassing gym phase." Stacy lifted one eyebrow. "You keep emergency women's clothes here?" "No. I keep old shirts because I make poor closet decisions." "Basic foresight," she said. "Exactly." I went to my bedroom, found a soft gray college shirt from a drawer, and brought it back. I handed it to her without letting my hand linger. "Bathroom's on the left. Fresh towel is on the hook. You can lock the door." She took the shirt and looked down at it. "Northwestern. Don't start." I said nothing. "You said it with your face." She stood, steadier now, and walked to the bathroom. The door clicked shut. While she changed, I stood in the kitchen and stared at the sink like it had instructions written in it. I was attracted to her. That fact had not disappeared just because I was doing the decent thing. If anything, the ordinary closeness made it harder. Stacy in my apartment. Stacy barefoot. Stacy trusting me enough to close a bathroom door and change into my shirt. That was exactly why I had to stay sharp. When she came back out, my brain went quiet for half a second. The shirt fell loose on her, hitting mid-thigh. Her hair was down now, darker where the rain had touched it, and she had wiped off enough makeup that her face looked softer and more tired. She was still herself, still sharp around the eyes. But without the blazer, heels, and perfect office posture, she looked like a person who had been holding herself together with both hands and had finally set the weight down. She noticed me noticing and tilted her head. "Careful, Terry." I looked away first. "Couch is ready." That was almost elegant. It was survival. She smiled and sat down, pulling the blanket over her knees. "Your apartment smells like coffee and paper." "That's probably accurate." "It's nice." She leaned back into the pillow. "Annoyingly nice." I sat in the armchair across from her, leaving enough distance that no one in the world could misunderstand the arrangement. Stacy looked at me. "What are you doing?" "Sitting." "You know that is not what I meant. You asked for safe." "I'm choosing the chair." Her mouth curved. "You are sitting like there is an HR representative spiritually present." I almost laughed despite myself. "There might be." "Terry." The way she said my name was not sharp. That made it worse. I stood, crossed the small space, and sat on the far edge of the couch, near her feet but not touching them. My back was straight. My hands were folded like I was waiting outside a principal's office. Stacy stared at me for 3 seconds. Then she laughed again, quieter than at the bar, but warmer. "This is tragic. I'm doing my best." "I know." Her smile faded a little. "That's the problem." The room settled after that. Rain tapped against the window. The radiator knocked once and then went quiet. She took another drink of water and set the glass down with both hands. "I'm embarrassed," she said. "You don't need to be. I know people say that when someone absolutely needs to be. You had one imperfect evening after a very good professional day and one bad personal message. That's allowed." She looked down at the blanket. "You make things feel less humiliating than they did 5 minutes earlier." I did not know how to answer without making the moment too heavy, so I kept it simple. "Good." She shifted on the couch, turning onto her side, her knees curled under the blanket. Her hand rested near my arm, not holding it, just close enough that I knew she knew where I was. "Can you stay until I fall asleep?" she asked. I swallowed. "Yeah, I can do that. I'm not asking you to fix anything." "I know. Or talk. I'm good at not talking when properly motivated." Her eyes closed, and for a second she looked almost like she might smile. "That's debatable." So I stayed. At first, I stayed sitting stiffly on the edge of the couch, watching the lamp throw a warm circle of light across the coffee table. Then her breathing slowed. Her hand shifted once and landed lightly against my forearm. I should have moved. Maybe I meant to. But it was such a small thing, and she was already asleep, and moving felt more dramatic than staying still. I told myself I would wait 10 minutes, make sure she was settled, then move to the chair. The rain kept going. The apartment warmed. The long day caught up with me piece by piece. The last thing I remember was looking at the fake plant by the window and thinking Stacy would definitely bring that up again in the morning. Then morning light came through the blinds, pale and gray. I woke up slowly, confused by the weight against me. Stacy's head was on my chest. Her arm was across me. The blanket was tangled around us both. For 2 full seconds, I did not move. Not because I wanted to make it last, though I would be lying if I said I did not notice every part of it. Stacy's hair was against my jaw. Her hand rested flat over my ribs. Her breathing was slow and even, like my couch had somehow done what expensive hotels and perfect schedules could not. I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember the exact route that had led us here. Bar, rain, water, shirt, couch, chair, HR ghost. Her asking me to stay until she fell asleep. Then apparently I had failed at staying awake like a responsible adult. Stacy shifted. Her fingers flexed once against my shirt, and then she froze. I felt the moment she woke up enough to understand where she was. She lifted her head slowly. Her hair fell across one side of her face. For a second, she looked completely blank. Then her eyes focused on me, on the blanket, on her arms still across me. She sat up so fast the blanket slid to the floor. "Oh," she said. "Morning." She stared at me. "Please tell me I did not use you as a human pillow all night." "You did not use me as a human pillow all night." Her eyes narrowed. "You used me as a human pillow for an unknown part of the night," I said. Could have been 15 minutes. Could have been 6 hours. Science may never know. Stacy covered her face with both hands. That is not better. It was meant to be neutral. It was not neutral. I sat up carefully, giving her space. My neck was stiff, my back hurt, and my left arm had that slow, prickling feeling from being trapped under someone too long. I did not mention any of that. She lowered her hands. Her face was flushed, but not in a panicked way. More like she was trying to decide whether this belonged in the category of humiliation or something more dangerous. I'm sorry, she said. I asked you to stay for a minute, not become furniture. We both fell asleep. You were supposed to move. I had a plan. Was the plan to pass out sitting upright? The plan had early promise and poor execution. She looked away, but I caught the corner of her mouth move. The room was gray with morning light. Rain still streaked the windows, softer now. My old shirt was wrinkled on her. One side of her hair was flattened from sleeping against me, and she looked so different from the woman who could stop a conference room with one sentence that it almost hurt to look at her. She rubbed her forehead. I remember everything. Okay. I mean, not every single second, obviously. But enough. The bar. The ride. Your apartment. The fake plant. I knew that would come back. And asking you to sit with me. Her voice got quieter. I remember that. You didn't do anything wrong. I know. She drew the blanket back over her knees, even though she was sitting now. That's the strange part. I'm embarrassed, but I'm not afraid. I kept still. She looked at me again. I have not slept that deeply near another person in a very long time. That landed in the room and stayed there. I could have made a joke. I almost did. That was usually how I kept things from getting too exposed. But her face told me not to. It wasn't only because of the drinks, she said. My chest tightened. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed from the coffee table. Once. Then again. She picked it up, glanced at the screen, and all at once Stacy McGurran returned. Not fully, but enough. Her shoulders straightened. Her eyes sharpened. What is it? I asked. The Ravenmere team moved the launch discussion up. She exhaled through her nose. Of course they did. When? 40 minutes. I stood. Practical was safer. Practical gave us somewhere to put our hands and eyes. Shower's yours. Clean towel is still in there. I can make coffee. I have a button-down you can wear under your blazer if that helps. She looked up from her phone. You have a spare button-down in my size. No. I have one that is too small in the shoulders for me because I lied to myself online. That sounds useful for once. Exactly. She stood, then paused. Terry. Yeah. Thank you for not making this strange. I looked at her, barefoot in my living room, wearing my old shirt, holding her phone like a shield she hated needing. It is strange, I said. I'm just not punishing either of us for it. Her expression changed, very slightly. Then she nodded and went to shower. For the next half hour, my apartment turned into the most normal and possible place I had ever been. Coffee dripped in the kitchen. Steam slipped out from under the bathroom door. I found the white button-down and left it folded outside with her blazer and skirt from the night before, which had been drying over the back of a chair. When she came out, her hair was damp and combed back with her fingers. She wore my shirt under her blazer, sleeves hidden, collar just visible. It should have looked ridiculous. It did not. She accepted the coffee I handed her and took one sip. This is better than I expected. I'm choosing to hear that as praise. It was. We stood at my small kitchen counter like we had done this before. Like she had every right to know where I kept the mugs. Like I had every right to see her in morning light. That was the dangerous part. Not the couch. Not waking up close. This. The ease of it. She checked the time and set the mug down. I need to go. I know. Neither of us moved. At the door, she slipped into her heels and adjusted her blazer. She looked almost like herself again, except for my shirt under the clean lines and the softness around her eyes. She put her hand on the doorknob, then stopped. I don't want this to become something we politely never mention, she said. It won't. She turned toward me. If I did something reckless right now, would you tell me it was a mistake because I was drunk? I did not answer fast. I wanted to, but fast felt careless. Stacy held my eyes. If I kiss you now, it will not be because I was drunk last night. It will be because I want to. Write in the comments. Was Stacy right to kiss me after a vulnerable night? Or should we have waited until the boss and employee line was completely resolved? Everything in me went still. If you kiss me, I said carefully, I'll kiss you back. But I need to know we're not borrowing courage from last night and calling it clarity. Her breath left her in a quiet laugh that was not really humor. Your caution is making this safer, Terry, not colder. You're still my boss. I know. That matters. I know that too. I don't want you cornered, personally or professionally. Her face softened, but her voice stayed steady. There is an internal transfer opening in new business strategy. Same floor, different reporting line. I was already considering it before last night. I searched her face. Stacy, I am not rearranging my life because I fell asleep on your chest once. A small smile appeared, although apparently that is now on the list of relevant data. Despite everything, I laughed. She stepped closer, not touching me yet. I wanted the move because I am tired of carrying every creative decision like a courtroom argument. This morning only gave me another reason to stop pretending I don't want things. I looked at her mouth, then back to her eyes. The call was in minutes. The office existed. The consequences existed. None of it disappeared because she was standing in my doorway looking at me like that. But the truth existed too. If you're asking whether I want to kiss you because I want you, I said, the answer is yes. Stacy did not kiss me right away. That mattered. She stood in my doorway with her hand still near the knob, rain-gray morning light behind her, my shirt hidden under her blazer like a secret neither of us had decided how to carry yet. Her eyes stayed on mine, not soft exactly, but open in a way I had never seen at work. Then she reached up and touched my face. Slowly, not like she was taking, like she was asking one last time without words. I did not move first. I wanted to. Every part of me wanted to close the space and stop thinking for once. But last night had been about keeping a promise, and I was not going to break it the second the morning gave me what I wanted. Stacy seemed to understand that. Her thumb brushed lightly along my jaw. Still safe? She asked. Yes. Good. Then she kissed me. It was not rushed. It was not dramatic. There was no crashing into each other, no pretending the past 14 months had not taught us patience. It was quiet and certain, the kind of kiss that made the whole apartment feel too small and perfectly still at the same time. She kissed me like she had thought about it before. I kissed her back like I had been trying not to. Her hand slipped to the back of my neck, and mine found her waist, careful at first, then steadier when she leaned in. She smelled like my soap and her perfume from the night before, faint now, almost gone. The combination hit me harder than it should have. When we finally pulled apart, she stayed close. Her forehead almost touched mine. That, she said, a little breathless, was not because I was drunk. No, I said. It wasn't. And not because I was sad. No. She nodded once, like she needed to hear both things out loud. Then her phone buzzed again from inside her purse, and we both laughed because of course it did. Reality had terrible timing. Stacy stepped back first. Not coldly. Just enough to become the person who had a client call in less than 10 minutes and an office full of people who knew nothing. We need to talk about work, I said. Yes. She adjusted her blazer, but her hand was not quite steady. We do. No pretending this didn't happen. No. No weird secret that makes us act guilty around the coffee machine. Her mouth curved. That is specific. I know our office. People notice when someone changes their coffee machine behavior. Fair. And no power imbalance we try to explain away because it's inconvenient. That made her expression sharpen. Not angry. Serious. I agree, she said. Completely. I mean it, Stacy. I don't want to be the person you have to manage at work and choose in private. That gets ugly fast. I know. She took a breath. The transfer opening is real. I was already interested. I'll request it properly. Not today in some emotional panic, but soon. With a clean reason. New business strategy needs stronger brand thinking. I want less day-to-day creative approval. Both things are true. And until then, we are careful. Careful how? She looked at me like she appreciated that I was making her define it. No office flirting. No special treatment. No closed-door conversations that do not need to be closed-door conversations. And if either of us feels the line getting muddy, we say so before it becomes a problem. I nodded. Okay. And you, she said, pointing at me lightly. Do not start acting weirdly formal to punish me for kissing you. I would never. You sat on your own couch like a hostage last night. That was different. It was memorable. I smiled despite myself. I want a real date. Her expression changed. The sharpness warmed around the edges. Good, she said. Not a client dinner. Not crisis management. Not you falling asleep on my chest because your ex ruined the weather. He did not ruin the weather. He contributed. She laughed, and I felt it in my chest like something unclenching. Dinner tomorrow, she said. I blinked. Tomorrow. Yes. You don't want to maybe think about it? I have been thinking about it longer than I planned to admit before 8 in the morning. She picked up her purse. And I have no interest in losing another night to wondering. That was very Stacy. Clear. Decisive. A little intimidating, even in my doorway wearing borrowed clothes. Tomorrow, then, I said. She opened the door, then looked back once. Terry. Yeah. Thank you for last night. You already said that. I'm saying it sober. Then she left. I stood there for a minute after the door closed, listening to her heels move down the hall. My apartment was suddenly too quiet. The blanket was still twisted on the couch. Her water glass sat on the coffee table. The bathroom mirror was fogged at the edges. Everything looked ordinary, except nothing felt ordinary anymore. At work that day, Stacy was flawless. She led the Ravenmere call in my button-down under her blazer and destroyed 3 bad timeline ideas without sounding annoyed once. Nobody knew, or if anyone noticed anything, they were smart enough not to say it. She did not look at me too long. I did not try to make her. We did the work. But once, near the end of the day, she passed my desk and set down a printed brief with one sticky note on top. Dinner. 7:30, Lincoln Park. Do not wear your tragic blue shirt. I kept my face straight until she walked away. The date was at a small Italian place on a side street, the kind with narrow tables, warm bread, and a waiter who knew when to disappear. It was not dramatic. That was what made it good. No big confession. No performance. Just 2 people eating pasta, laughing too much, and slowly admitting the truth had been sitting between them for months. She told me she had noticed the way I rewrote headlines under my breath before presenting them. I told her I had noticed she always touched the edge of a deck before giving hard feedback, like she was lining up the room. She rolled her eyes at that, but she smiled into her wine. 2 weeks later, she requested the transfer. A month after that, it was approved. The office did not fall apart. Nobody made a scene. Stacy moved into new business strategy, same floor, different reporting line, cleaner boundaries. We kept being careful, but careful stopped feeling like hiding. It felt like respect. At work, she stayed Stacy McGurran. Elegant, exact, formidable enough to make clients rethink their own sentences. People still sat straighter when she walked into a room. But I knew the private version now. The woman who showed up at my apartment with takeout and no makeup. The woman who mocked my fake plant but watered the real one without asking. The woman who could set her phone face down, curl into my side on the couch, and let herself be tired without apologizing for it. And sometimes, after a long day, she fell asleep with her head on my chest. On purpose.